I'm chilling at the spot, she tell me come over. I'm thinking living room table, I'ma bring the coasters. Shoulder stack with the beef, I'm about to roast her. She was a little choosy, I'm glad I chose her. Hard to focus, too much company, can't keep switching sofas. Roller coasters, I do what I do, it do it a poster. Good morning, Folgers, dip my bill for the cream. She put it in the mean.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Grit and Grace, where we have open, honest, and raw conversations. Behold the salmonella. I am your host, Madam.
Alice.
All right, so this is episode 2. Just a recap from last episode where we talked about community and all the things that involve community, how to cultivate it, what it looks like. If you have one, if you haven't watched it, we definitely recommend that you go back and watch the first episode, aka season 1 premiere.
Okay. So after recapping the first episode, today we are diving right into relationships. This is something very near and dear to both of our hearts because not just talking about romantic relationships, we're hinting on all of them. All of the relationships. Friendships are relationships too. And I'm so happy to say that this is a healthy relationship and healthy friendship.
Praise 'em.
And we have a lot to say about all the other types of different friendships and relationships too. So,
Yes, so relationships, as Alice has said, there's platonic, aka friendships, romantic, familial, which is your family, and acquaintances, which could be a coworker, maybe even a neighbor. Any other examples you got on that?
of acquaintances,
Yeah.
acquaintances have their time and space for everything. I just don't. I don't think I have too many. I either really like people or
Or I don't.
you there or you not.
It's either you there or you're not. I definitely agree. So let's just hop right into it.
Okay.
So, Alice, what makes you feel safe in your relationship?
And across all of them or a specific
We can
type?
go down the types.
Generally,
So let's say platonic.
platonic relationships. I'm trying not to go down too many rabbit holes here because
Hey.
we can easily go down rabbit holes.
We could.
But what I need to feel safe in relationships is basically a non-judgmental factor. As long as I feel as though I'm not being judged, those are the safest relationships for me. And that goes across any of them. Like, I don't want to be judged by my family. I don't want to be judged by my partner. I don't want to be judged by my friends. I just want to be who I am and have them accept me because I'm going to accept them in all of their beautiful and messiness that just comes along with life.
But wouldn't we say that everybody has a little judgmental bone?
Yes, they do, but I feel there's a fine line between telling your loved one your opinion and then just shaming and judging them for just who they are.
Ooh, girl, don't we know it? Don't we know it? I agree. For me, definitely across all relationships, mutual respect, first of all. Respect me and I respect you. I'm going to respect you, so I expect you to respect me as well.
What does respect look like, though? Because sometimes people, your definitions of respect, but I feel it's important to define what respect is when it comes to how relationships work, because what I think respect is, what you think respect is, could be different.
This is true. I guess for me, just understand that I wouldn't do anything or say anything or handle you in a way that I wouldn't want to be handled, right?
Okay.
When it comes to me, consider me as well.
Okay.
It's a part of respect. If you out here just doing any old thing, whether it's a friend, a relative, a partner, spouse, whatever you want to call it, consider me. I think consideration is, maybe jumping topics for a second, but consideration is really like one of the highest forms of love,
I'd agree.
right? And I feel like if you truly love something or love someone, not only are you going to respect yourself, but you're also going to respect it or them, right? So I'm going to give you respect. I just expect the same thing in return.
Yeah. And that genuine rule of treat me how you want to be treated.
Yes. But then I think you got to be careful with that, because a lot of people, how do you say? A lot of people, kind of like lack a lot of self-love. So things that they might accept to be okay are things that you wouldn't accept to be okay, because you might be on a different level or a higher level of, evolution and when it comes to self-respect. I mean, self-love.
But at the basis of it, it's just like, okay, if you wouldn't want me to do that to you, don't do it to me.
Agreed. Agreed. A basic requirement, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, in the past, what would you say have made you feel unsafe
Oh.
outside of being judged?
That's the biggest thing, because I mask a lot. And so people I don't have to mask around, the perfect people. Like we just existing in each other's space. I'm not getting on your nerves. You're not getting on my nerves. We're just here,
Right.
But what really has made me feel unsafe in the past is people's emotional outburst, or like people having these very strong feelings and not knowing what to do with them. And it manifests as anger for them and things like that. I don't like that. I don't want to be around it. Even if you can communicate that I'm not the root cause of it, that's fine. Still don't like it.
Those are probably people that don't have very good emotional IQ, though.
I would agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, and not to say, but some of my loved ones, family, friends, etc., not everyone has a high emotional intelligence. That doesn't mean I love them any less, but I try to limit my interactions with them because I don't feel safe because of that.
Agreed. I think even animals do that, if we really want to be honest.
For 100%. They will avoid somebody.
Real bad. Real bad. And you would know. You had a dog, so.
And Rex made it very clear if he ain't like somebody. Very clear.
Right. Okay, so further into our safety and protection in relationships, I think that it's also important to have self-protection.
Okay.
As well. You can't necessarily expect, I guess, someone else to do what you would do.
No.
While we have that expectation, you still have to have some type of self-coverance as well.
Yeah.
Just in case. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I think that can manifest in the form of boundaries, or making sure that like you have your boundaries, you enforce them. Other people are aware, especially the people, your loved ones, are aware of your boundaries, because you can't expect someone to honor a boundary if you don't, if they're not made aware of it.
False expectations, right?
Right.
How you gonna have an expectation for someone that they don't even know that?
Exactly. They don't have a chance to get it right.
They didn't agree to it.
Right, but if they love you just like you love them, everybody has boundaries.
No. There's a lot of people walking around here that don't have a boundary. And that's the problem with the world today.
You know what? Now that you've said that.
When we really think about it.
There's
a lot of people out here that lack boundaries, and it shows.
Like, for one, like we're both pretty private people. And I think one of my boundaries is maintaining my privacy to a certain extent, right?
So upholding those boundaries.
Upholding them.
And standing firm in them. Okay.
And some people are just like, well, I don't care if you know X, Y, and Z about me. And in a perfect world, right? Like, this is someone I love. This is someone I really care about. Maybe I don't have to be as strict in my boundaries, but also my boundaries kind of flex depending on the person, like we talked about. I feel safer with this person. I have less boundaries with this person because I feel safer with them versus with somebody else. I feel like I have to have these walls up or I have to protect myself as much as I love them still. I still feel the need to protect myself from certain aspects of their personality.
Right. Okay. We'll come back to boundaries.
We'll come back to it.
Got a whole area for boundaries. We'll come back to boundaries. So, adding on to the safety, I think trust is a big factor in this too, as far as feeling safe in your relationships. So, but I understand that trust. I guess for me, everybody comes with a certain level of trust, and then it's up to you whether you cultivate more or whether you diminish it. But once it's diminished, like for me personally, it's gonna take a minute for it to be rebuilt.
Baby, I'm like batteries. They're not included. Trust is not included for anybody. We can have a mutual respect for each other and we can cultivate trust together, but it really only takes one red flag, especially in the beginning, because all relationships, it could be friendships, anything. You got one time for your actions not to align with your words, for this to not match up with what you said, because I just don't understand why somebody got a lot of me. I ain't nobody. You got a lot of me. So trust is built. It is not included. It is not included.
Built and not included, y'all. I can get you with that.
This is not included.
I can get you with that. But you don't think everybody has to have like even a small. All right.
No.
Okay. Okay.
No.
Touche. I got it. Moving on then. Trust is built and not included, y'all, just in case y'all didn't catch Alice's memo. Also in safety in relationships, I think when you come from an unhealed place, or even if you're coming from a traumatic place, right? There can be like denial phases.
Okay.
Where you'll see one thing, kind of similar to what you were saying about the trust too. You'll see one thing and kind of maybe trick it in your mind as something else.
Why would you gaslight
AKA
yourself?
maybe turning the other cheek to it. To the red flag. We'll call it a red flag. Turning the other cheek to the red flag or something like that. Rather than taking it for what it is and not lying to yourself. Because you can lie to anybody else and it's just like, okay, but lying to yourself, that ain't doing anybody no good.
Yeah, why gaslight yourself?
Well, as we said earlier with boundaries, if you allow other people to gaslight you, then you will gaslight yourself.
That's a very strong form of manipulation. When you
What
have
if that's all that you know?
That's not healthy for your relationship with yourself or for other people.
And this is why we talk about self-love, y'all.
Okay, I have a question. There's always this saying where people are like, "Oh, well, you can't love anyone else if you can't love yourself." How do you feel about that statement?
I don't think that you can fully and unconditionally love someone else if you don't love yourself.
Why?
Because what does it look like? What does it feel like? What comes with that, right? What are the foundationals in that? If you don't have those foundationals and know what those foundationals are for yourself, how can you extend it to someone else? That's like me saying, I'm going to do open heart surgery on you, and I ain't been through no type of practitioner or testing.
That escalated
Or I ain't
quickly.
even exactly
Escalated quickly.
And that's how quickly it can escalate in a relationship with someone.
Okay.
Because think about it, you, and then from experience, right? You try to love this person, but it really comes off conditional because you're doing these things hoping for a certain type of response or something back. Versus if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to do it because this is genuinely what I want to do, whether you reciprocate it or not. Or whether it gets reciprocated through you personally or someone else or not. Because we all know we can do goodness out in the world. And let's say I do something good for you. You might not necessarily reciprocate it back, but it'll get reciprocated through, I don't know, Sally or Tom or whoever else.
Okay. But in tying that to how can you love somebody else if you don't love yourself? I think you can. I don't think it's going to be healthy. It's not going to be healthy by any means.
So if it's not going to be healthy, then ultimately, since we're talking about health, ultimately, you can't do that. Not.
But you can. Because I've seen people who have literally had nothing to live for themselves, right? Mm-hmm. That they're like, I just want to give. And I think giving is one of the
But how you going to give from an empty cup? After you drink this last swig of wine and you go and you tip it up again, ain't nothing going to be in this glass. I ain't saying if I pretend you ain't got a bottle. Pretend you don't have a bottle. After you drink this last swig and you go to tip it up again, nothing else is in there.
Right.
So if you're trying to give to me and you don't have anything in your cup, what are you giving me? Air?
Maybe
emptiness.
Giving to you is what fills my cup simultaneously. Because doesn't it feel good to give?
Depends. But how can you give to me if you can't give to yourself?
I'm not at that point yet. But I'm just saying.
So how do you know how to truly give? And this is what I'm talking about with the condition. You said, okay, what if giving to you fills my cup up?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're giving to me in efforts to be filled up?
Not in efforts to be filled up, but I've just experienced so many people who are always like, I can't be in a relationship. I can't love anybody because me, myself, I'm not perfect. What the point I'm trying to make is
there's no
that
such thing as perfect.
You don't have to be perfect. You could be very, in essence, fucked up and still love somebody very genuinely. It might not, like I said, in some ways it can be healthy, and sometimes, but most times it's not going to be.
Extremely unhealthy.
Yes.
Because you don't have a healthy base within yourself, so you can't give healthy love. It's going to come with a bunch of strings attached, whether they're said, seen, or unknown. There's going to be a lot of stuff attached to it that even they probably won't even know off bat that it's being attached to.
The point that I think I was trying to make was with, like, can you truly love somebody if you don't love yourself, is that you don't have to be 100%. Oh, I love myself so much. I do everything and, like, all of that. You can love somebody even if you're still healing, which is the point I wanted to drive home.
You can. But you can only give it the capacity that you have. And what if it's not enough for that other person?
Then it's just probably not the right time, or that's not your person in any capacity.
What if it is your person but not the right time? Meaning you still have work to do or things to do and you're just not there yet.
It's complicated.
Isn't it? Isn't it? Extremely
complicated.
Extremely complicated. I think that you could only give what you have. And in that, in the most healthiest way, right? In that you have to be logical with self first to say, like, okay, I only have 20%. I don't have any overflow. I don't have any extra reserve, right? Mm-hmm. So once I give this 20%, I'm going to be depleted. And so you have to be logical with yourself and think and decide is this worth it? Because if not, right, once you give this 20% and you're depleted, you need a SOS, phone a friend, whatever you want to call it, and you can't phone a friend, or nothing out there, no one out there is available to SOS or to resuscitate you, you're going to be mad. Then that's going to bring up, well, I did this and that for that person and this person, and I gave them this one. I only had this.
That's
Why
toxic.
did you? This is my point. So you can't truly love someone like that unless you have it for yourself.
But that goes back to the intent, like which intent?
Well, we ain't hit on the intent.
We haven't hit on intent yet,
but we will.
Let's just say I don't have anything. Like there's nothing in my cup
Sure.
to give, but my intent is to give.
Sure.
And give selflessly, not selfishly because I want something in return, or I'm doing a down payment on an investment that I want to eventually get a high return on in the future. This is simply just, I want to give even if I don't have anything to give. Because I've seen that so many times, and people will say it's love, and sometimes it is love because giving something that you don't have, but because you don't want to see someone else go without, is a pure form of love. But we usually only attach it to mothers. But I think if you do that in any capacity, that's a genuine form of love, as long as your intent behind it is purely selfless.
Yeah. But I think there's a fine line with selflessness and selfishness too.
Which
we'll get into that later.
We're gonna get on that.
We'll get into that juiciness later.
Speaking of filling cups.
Speaking of filling cups. So speaking of that, I think that also when it comes to feeling safe in certain relationships, you know, maybe even more so romantic ones than anything, and probably platonic ones too, because that would be next closest to romantic ones, maybe, right? Or would you say familial?
I think romantic and familial
are probably the closest.
Yeah.
Okay, I can agree with that. I knew it was one of the two. But speaking of that, right? I think a big thing that goes into this as well is really dealing with and honing in on your childhood traumas and whatever shortcomings that you might have, you know, experienced or dealt with or faced during that time, right? There are adulthood traumas too, y'all. Don't get it twisted. But I'm saying we learn and we cultivate how to interact and how we really want to show up in the world from a very early age.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
In those developmental ages, I think it's like 5. You pretty much are kind of like, I think it's between 5 and 7, where it's concrete in your brain at least. Like, this is what I am, this is what I'm going to be type thing. Yes, it is. It can change as you get older, but that's a more intentional, right, change rather than a grooming type thing based on your environment, your family, and things like that, where you went to school. That type of stuff is what I'm saying, right? So, what do you think? How? I think it affects relationships greatly. Honestly, I think it affects relationships with your relationship with other people probably almost at least 80%. More than anything.
There is a reason that parent and partners have the same letters.
Well,
just think about it. Like, for a minute, the guys that I were dating were either just like my mom or just like my dad in some shape.
Well, you know what they say, you'll either date your mother or you'll date your father until you heal those wounds.
Exactly.
But a lot of people don't even realize and know that they have wounds.
But that comes with a lack of self-awareness.
Okay.
Because somebody could just be going through life like, oh, I'm fine. I have a great relationship with my parents. we're great.
I could see that. Especially because you trust your parents as being kind of like your heroes, essentially. Most
I'm going to
kids.
just come out and say it for everybody that's watching. Sometimes your parents don't have the best intentions for you.
And sometimes they don't know that these aren't the best intentions for you and that they are selfishly projecting certain ideas, emotions, thoughts, patterns, even behaviors onto you based on their own wounds that they don't even realize that they have. Because a lot of parents, and even our parents, right, and their parents are like, oh, well, it didn't hurt me coming up, you be all right. And it's like, oh, but it did. Because look how you respond to X, Y, and Z. Look how you view X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. Right?
And I bet y'all like, oh, this started off with relationships. How did we delve so deep into parents and childhoods and stuff like that? Who you grow up to be is very much early shaped.
Right, and that's what I was talking about,
parents.
that 5 to 7 year, yeah.
Yeah, like your parents, your attachment style, all of these things. These are formed in your formative
Early years, yeah.
before you may even be conscious or aware or have memory of. All of these things can affect you.
Yeah.
And the reason we are focusing so much on parental relationships is because those are the very first relationships that you have.
Right.
And those relationships are what kind of build
your
the
basis.
foundation or like whatever for how you expect other relationships to be.
Right.
And so that's how we're getting
And
into
then
all of
you
that.
have, right, and then you have it's kind of like either you grow up to be like that or you grow to be like, okay, I don't want to be like that. So you try your hardest to be the opposite of that.
Or you just could sense that something was wrong. Like in my case, it wasn't so much that I wanted to be the exact opposite of my family or anything. It was just that, okay, when I get older, I didn't like how XYZ made me feel. I'm going to make sure I don't do anything to cause myself to feel that way or to cause other people to feel that way. Because I could easily identify the actions for what I didn't like or what caused me pain, trauma, whatever. I could easily pinpoint those things and be like, I'm not going to do it.
Right. I agree.
And that's
but
not,
I think for me that just ended up, well, yeah. Actually, I agree with what you said, because I wouldn't say that I completely, as I got older and was like, okay, I don't want to be like them at all. Like it wasn't like that, but it was definitely like there are definitely a lot of habits and behaviors and patterns and things like that I don't want to continue on. Like it stops here with me, homegirl. This is it. We ain't doing that over here.
It's never coming from a place of spite. Oh, I hate that person because they do X, Y, Z. More so like
spite takes too much energy.
Way too much. I didn't like how your tone. I didn't like being cussed out. I don't like being yelled at. So I don't cuss out. So I don't yell. So I don't jump to conclusions. And all of these things have made my life so much easier.
I think that's why I talk so soft. Because, y'all out there that know me and y'all be saying, huh? I can't hear you. It's not that I'm whispering. I'm not a loud talker. But I come from a family of very loud talkers.
So you just on your Janet Jackson
we
shit.
country. Very much Janet Jackson if you nasty.
Because she, oh my God, sorry, sad story, but I never forget when she came to Houston and it was just like she was whispering and she was like, what's up, Houston? Just such a soft voice.
Yeah. That would be me. Soft voice. My voice puts people to sleep though.
You have a very calm demeanor.
What can I say?
I like to bring it up out you though in the best way possible, not like antagonizing you, but like like when we was in the car and I was like, ooh, Lyric, you so soft. Like I knew that would make you smile and get like a little bit of a rise out of you, and I'm here for it.
You're not about to do that in front of all these people,
but I will.
But you're not.
Okay.
So in conjunction with this childhood thing, right, and this is something that I had to deal with And I often see this a lot, especially when I do readings and things like that for people. Being that, let's say you have 3, 4 siblings, more than one sibling, whatever, right? And you're not just an only child. I mean, I was an only child, but there's 2 of you, right? And some children grow up who are now adults, but some children grow up to feel like they didn't really receive that love and that attention and that care that the other sibling received because they were the strong child. They were the independent child. They were the responsible child, so on and so forth.
That manifests as hyper independency in adulthood and coming in and saving people all the time and feeling like your worth is tied to how you can make other people feel better, if you can come in and fix something, if you can solve it. If
I dealt with that for a long time.
Why?
Because I was essentially, or am essentially, like the pillar of the family.
Okay.
And like you said, I have a very cool, calm demeanor, right? So in light of adversity and things like that, I'm the one that's like, hey, it's gonna be okay. We just need to do X, Y, and Z. While everybody else is like
Losing their shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
They breaking down, crying, or going off, or they about to go hit the bottle, or whatever it might be, whatever to not deal with it, and check out from it. Whereas I'm like, no, let's face it, let's look forward and do what we need to do, and it's gonna be okay. You ain't gotta get all anxious and things like that behind it. And I'm still like this to today. I tell my mom that all the time. I'm like, Mom, it's okay.
It's fine.
Just breathe. It's all right. It's gonna work out completely fine. And so being that, I think that growing up, a lot of emotional weight was placed on me because I was able to carry it.
As a child?
Whether it was intentional or non-intentional. And so as I got older, you kind of, like you said, you continue those patterns, and because it's like second nature to you.
Very hard to break.
But then you start to see the negative side effects of it as you get older. You could really realize what's happening, right? And in my romantic relationships and even platonic ones, and I was like, oh no, this dead. Like I can still be that bearer, but I can't be that for everybody. I'm not just gonna put myself out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, I'm a dump truck. Come dump whatever you need. No. Mm-mm. And that goes back to where I was talking about earlier, having the capacity. It's not just physical capacity. It's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual.
Because
it's all of that capacity, because you might not have it. And even coming up, I didn't always have the capacity, but I had to. I had to make myself have it.
You didn't have the choice because no one asked a child if they can just emotionally dump on them. They just do it.
They just do it.
You just do it.
Or things get taken out on you and you have no idea why. Same thing. That's another example of what it looks like, being emotionally dumped on. And I think a lot of parents don't realize that. And there's no shade to any of the parents, especially not mine, not my mama, at least. But when you don't know, you don't know,
And so, like, even as a child, when we are receiving all of this emotion, which is a lot of times way too complex for us to understand, we just see that someone we love so much, a parent, a guardian, whoever, is in pain. And so we think it's our responsibility.
Naturally, you want to help. You want to take that away. You want to
take it away. Exactly.
And that's how I feel.
Exactly. Like,
and that further puts you into that space of
I need to
being
fix
a pillar.
it.
I need to fix it. I need to carry this weight or that weight. And then after you've done it for so many times, it becomes an expectation. And those other people don't even realize that they're making it an expectation.
So then you feel heavy, you feel burdened, even though you would. So when I was younger and trying to bear that emotional load that was placed on me without my consent, rhyme, or anything, it was trying to meddle over those emotions that manifested as anger and unpredictability in my life. I don't want to be around someone who could just go off like that, right? So if I know that someone is upset, if I know that they're scared, if I know that they're angry about something, let me come in and fix it.
Sure.
And even at a young age, I'm so good at fixing those things.
Yeah.
So good at it. But
I guess that's why I became an engineer, huh?
You just love to fix those things.
Go figure.
Went from fixing people to fixing things.
Still fixing people, though. Hey.
Unfortunately. I mean,
somewhat.
But as a child, you do it as a way to stay safe. Or at least from my perspective. And like I said, this is no shade at anybody.
It was a safety thing.
It was a way to stay safe because it's just like, if I see you in this bad mood and I see you're going to stay in that bad mood for a very long time. It was going to
come down on you.
It was going to come directed at me at some point. And so it's like, it's better if I get a gauge of your mood.
Try to fix it so that it doesn't come down on you.
So it doesn't come back towards me.
I understand.
Because it very much could. And then you're in a situation where you're unsafe.
Yep.
And you did so that's where the term is, when you're being that dumping ground, you're also walking on eggshells, which is very hard to do because okay, I need to receive all of your very strong emotions that you need to place somewhere, but then also in an effort to not piss you off even further.
Right.
I need to walk on these metaphorical eggshells.
Right. And speaking of that, so that brings us into in the counseling world and therapy world, they call it ACE, right?
Okay.
When it comes to children.
Educate me. I don't know what ACE is.
So that just goes into looking into school counselors, right? Like they'll use this schematic or whatever to kind of maybe grade the student on where they are emotionally and kind of what's going on as to why they're in counseling, right? So that it just boils down to abuse, neglection, and dysfunction in their families. And that's kind of how they determine okay, there's childhood traumas here, and so on and so forth. So I think as millennials, it kind of puts us in a weird space because when I was growing up, when I was born, we didn't even have Google and all that. They had computers, but it wasn't internet that or nothing like that, And
Maybe
mental health.
Maybe.
We got dial-up when 8 or 9.
Better not be on the phone while you're trying to use the
late
internet.
2000s. Right.
Don't put our age on here, girl. Don't date us.
Definitely. I'm not going to do that. But I say that to say, I think as millennials, we kind of have it difficult because, or more challenging because we're in that weird gap where resources and support to things outside of just in the house or the neighbors or the neighborhood, we didn't have for the beginning parts of our lives. And now as young adults and adults, for those that's born in the early 80s, now we do have those things. But it can kind of put us in a weird space, right? Because we grew up oh no, don't say nothing. Don't talk to nobody about anything. You just need to take it, suck it up, and figure it out, and basically just suffer.
Better shut up before I give you a reason. Then better be quiet before I give you a reason to cry.
Exactly. Didn't heard that before.
And then your lip get to quivering.
Crying for.
Sniffling.
Yep. And so it puts, millennials in a weird space, whereas like the Gen Z now, they came in the world with all of the Google and internet and mental health awareness and all those other things.
And their parents have a little bit, or not even a little bit, they have more awareness than our parents. A lot more
awareness now, where our parents didn't really have that awareness at all, because they grew up in the baby boomers, which would be our parents, our grandparents, and then the Gen X, I think, is our parents. They didn't have that awareness. They gonna tell you to pray about it. Go to church.
Still hold them accountable, because they still did the things that were done to them that didn't make them feel good.
Yes.
For not, and it's just.
But that goes back to, when you know better, you do better. They still didn't know better. Not that I'm making an excuse for them. They knew it wasn't right. Yeah, but they didn't know what was right. But I can say, like for instance, with my mom, I know that she didn't want to grow up to be like her parents. Like, she didn't want to be a mother that was like her parents. And I'm not saying that she did everything right or anything like that, but as a young woman now, I know she did the best that she can do at that time. And now, in this stage, in my age and her age, she does even more, and a lot better than where she used to be back then. But she could only do what she could do back then. But it doesn't make it an excuse. It's just
because the impact,
right? The impact on you is still real. Whether
anybody intentionally means to hurt you or not, the truth at the end of the day is whether you were hurt. If my arm got broken because somebody was trying to help me, but they still broke my arm, I'm still a motherfucker with a broke arm, and this shit still hurt.
I appreciate your effort, but my arm is still broke. Yes.
Yeah, I understand. And it goes a long way when someone can acknowledge.
Yeah.
When they can acknowledge, okay, I hurt you. I'm sorry. I did the best that I could with what I had. But not saying, like, not a bullshit apology, because some of them are bullshit. Oh, well, I did the best that I could with what I had, and then they don't want to hear nothing about it. No.
And that's simply because it kind of makes them feel like they weren't good enough. So that puts them in a more, like, rebuttaling and defensive state.
And it's not, I promise you.
That. It's like we're trying to get to a common ground of me understanding, you understanding, like, hey, these things happen and it didn't feel good, and these things happened to you too, and I'm sure it didn't feel good. Let's talk about it so that we can heal these things and not just be carrying them on until we die and projecting it onto other people that didn't cut us.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, because either way, the things that I said that I didn't like about childhood, about how I was raised and things like that, it ends with me either because I ain't having no kids,
because you know better,
or because I'm just not going to do
those things.
And
I mean, we say that, but and I know a lot of folks out there are going to be like, well, you say that now until you become a parent. And I understand that no parent is going to be perfect ever, because no one's perfect
at all.
You're going to make mistakes, and you have to make mistakes so that you can better understand and know, what to do and how to fix it, and what works and what doesn't work. Which then brings us to attachment styles. What is your attachment style, Alice?
It is very disorganized. And I say that because it changes based on the person. Just like I am a switch where I feel safer with some people in my inner circle than I do with others, but the love is the same. So goes the same with the attachment style. It changes based on the person. You and I, very secure attachment style. Me and my friends, super secure attachment style. I'm never concerned about that, right? When it comes to romantic relationships and sometimes familial relationships, especially with me, they're very disorganized and they change all the time.
I think that might go back to that whole gauging thing that you have to do.
Yeah, like I need constant reassurance from my boyfriend. And I don't think that's super healthy, but I've communicated with him. And so, like, I don't expect him to change his whole.
But you know where that comes from, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
that's
just like,
that's the first step.
I'm very confident in my other relationships, but for him, just like, do you still love me? Can you tell me 1,000 times?
Really here?
Yeah, like, do you like
How do you
me?
really feel?
Do you really like me? Like, you know, and he's never been unkind to me about it, which makes me love him even more. But it's just, like, it was a conversation that needed to be had, you know, and that wasn't easy for me, especially knowing it. But it just made us closer. Like, okay, you're aware that I am this way, a chronic overthinker who will probably, like, if you don't give me a hug in the morning, probably be like, this nigga didn't give me a hug, he don't love me no more type shit, even though it's not like that, you know?
Right.
And it's just a work in progress. That doesn't mean that that doesn't mean I'm not worthy of love because I have this disorganized attachment style, right? Nobody's perfect. You just here.
Well, when I took the quiz, it said that I was had secure attachment style.
Would you say that's the same across all your relationships?
Now, for the most part, yeah.
Okay.
Because I understand, like, whatever I do for a person or how I'm approaching or dealing with a person, it just is what it is. And I don't do it with, like, this complete expectation that they're going to reciprocate what I'm giving.
Okay.
I had to learn that early. Even though I didn't fully get it until maybe the last 3 years ago. But seems like the older I'm getting, the more I'm like, it doesn't matter who it is. It's just like, okay, cool. So when you say I really have a cool demeanor, like, I just be like, hey, it's all good. Cool.
And that's
what you want to do? Cool.
Okay.
You chose to move like that? Hey, cool. It just shows and tells me how to move further, you know, in regards to that person.
How I need
no
to
matter what the
operate.
relationship is.
Yeah.
Right. Let a person show you what they rather do. So that way you can move accordingly and not feel no type of way. Okay?
Okay.
I'm here for it.
With that being said, I would like to highlight a book. Y'all know I'm a nerd. I really love to read. I love my books. Okay. This book might trigger some of you. It definitely triggered me. And when I was first reading it, so many times, like, I like to get up super early in the morning, like at the ass crack of dawn. That's when I'm my best self. Like, it's not uncommon for me to be up like at 4 in the morning, even on Saturday or Sundays when I don't have to be. But it's just so I can have some quiet time, or at least all my time is quiet because I live by myself. But at the beginning, just so I can have some quiet time to read. So there's this book. It's called The Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. Y'all see all these tabs?
She has taken lots of notes and highlights.
I read this book over a year ago. I have read it maybe 2 or 3 times now. The first time was very triggering. I had to stop. I was crying while I was reading it and highlighting things. But if you want to know more about yourself, if you want to know more about your parents, I would suggest this book. And if you inbox me about any book that you have read, that is the best way to get me to respond. Not saying that I just have so many people in my inbox, because I don't. I get overwhelmed with my inbox. But if somebody's like, oh, I read this book, it's the first thing I'm going to click on. Go through this book. It has quizzes. It has so many things in here. I've highlighted so many things in this book. It is a fantastic book. It will help you identify your parents. And when you can identify your parents, you know better how to deal with them. They have the parents divided into 4 categories: emotional, driven, passive, and rejecting. And none are better than the other, because these are not ideal situations that you would like to be in, right? But reading this book will help you understand them, because you might just get to a point where, okay, I'm an adult now. I didn't like my childhood. I have grown myself to be a person who is different from how I was raised, but you still have to maintain those relationships with your family, right? This book will help you navigate those relationships. If you have the emotional or the rejecting or the driven or the passive parent, reading this
or
book,
a combo
or a combination, because that's real dangerous and lethal.
Yeah, we'll link it.
Yes, we will link this book.
And,
I love this book. I cannot say enough good things about this book. It is by Lindsay C. Gibson.
All right, so
she got some credentials behind her name.
Credentials, PhD, y'all. So y'all check that out. Let us know what you think. Also, we want y'all to take the attachment quiz too. Let us know what your attachment style is. Do you agree with it? Do you think that your attachment style changes based on the type of relationship, whether it be platonic, romantic, familial, or even in your working life, right? We're probably going to go over our hour here in a second because I do want to address this boundaries topic before we get out of here. I think boundaries in any type of relationship are super important, and you have to have them even for yourself, right?
Please give us an example of a self boundary.
I would say kind of like knowing when you're doing too much and not enough. Like, don't overdo it, aka being a people pleaser. Create that boundary for yourself to protect yourself, not even the other person. Because one thing about it, a taker is going to do what?
Take.
All right. So you can't expect the taker to say, oh, hey, no, that's too much. That's too much.
Let me do something for you.
You can't expect that. So you have to create that boundary for yourself. Okay, this is as far as I'm going to go as far as doing X, Y, and Z for this person or that person or this thing or this situation or whatever, right? You have to create that boundary for yourself, because if you don't, then you can't hold anybody else to the expectation to do that for you, because everybody's always doing everything for pretty much their own interests, right?
Okay.
That's just human nature. You have to cognitively be like, okay, let me also consider and think about this person too. So you have to have boundaries for yourself, and you have to uphold them. That is one of the most important things with boundaries. Don't just create a boundary and then don't uphold it or keep it. That's just null and void. And I think it's also important to know that boundaries does not mean rejection. Okay? Boundaries don't mean rejection, but boundaries do mean protection.
I'll give y'all an example of a boundary I have with my family. Alice don't want to be bothered after 4:00 on a Sunday. Okay? That means if you want to spend time with me on a Sunday, it needs to be in the morning when I'm my best self, because I wake up at the ass crack of dawn.
She does.
Or in the early afternoon, because after 4:00, that's solely my time to be anxious and unhappy about Monday. And I need time to mentally prepare for Monday.
Yeah.
I don't want to be bothered after 4:00.
Which for you, that's about 12, 14 hours of getting prepared for Monday. So
yes, and I need all those hours.
Yeah.
Do I get roasted for that boundary by my family? Absolutely. They joke about it all. Oh, well, you know, if it's after 4:00, we can't go by her house. You can't. I'm in my room stretching and meditating.
That's that little energy of rejection.
It's not.
But it's not a reject.
If you want to come over at noon, then you can come over at noon.
Right.
I'm gonna be
call
right
me
there
first.
Somebody walk
call
in
me first.
They come over and I ain't got no clothes on. That's on them.
True. X. Y'all just be careful.
That's on you.
Now, you previously said people's response to boundaries kind of gives a gauge on whether they respect the boundary or not.
Yeah. Elaborate on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if, let's just, like I said, me not wanting company or anybody in my face after 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, yeah, I get roasted about it, but it's not something that I have to say or repeat more than once because everybody is already aware of it. And it's not something that I've been secretive or coyish about, or, look, after 4 o'clock, that's my time. I'm not willing to share that time. Am I willing to flex every now and again for special occasions, emergencies, things of that nature? Absolutely. But other than that, I'm going to be smoking on that za, stretching in my wellness room, and mentally preparing for Monday. And I don't want to be bothered.
And there you have it, folks.
And my family, they'll be, like I said, I get roasted for it, y'all. I do. Because they're not morning people. I'm the only morning person in my family. So it's just like, damn, I'm just, I'm running errands at 4 o'clock. I guess I can't come see you when I'm done. Well, I guess you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we got to wrap up here, but let us know, how you feel about boundaries. Do you set them? Are you setting them? Are you upholding them? Not just for others, but for yourself. And just like I said, a reminder, boundaries are not rejection, but they are protection. I think when you have healthy boundaries, that can kind of give you a little bit of assurance of having less to heal from.
I'll say this last thing and then we can.
Okay.
Think of boundaries as a way for you to present yourself as your best self to the people that love and maybe depend on you. Like, for example, I need that time to myself on Sunday so that I can show up to work and provide for myself and provide for whoever else I need to provide for by being the best version of myself at work.
And this goes back to having capacity.
Exactly. I have to have this downtime to make sure that I am my best self tomorrow, to show up to the gym so that I'm healthy, to show up to work so that I'm, ready to tackle the day. Don't think of boundaries as, oh, I'm being mean or unkind. Think of it as a way of self-preservation.
Right. Self-preservation, which we'll get into later down the line. All right, guys, we appreciate you for tuning in today. We would love to hear your feedback. If you have any suggestions, topics that you want
I
to
got
know more
the text,
about,
I replied with the OT dub. Normally
definitely drop
distance,
it
fist
below
game,
in
pound it up.
comments.
12 a.m., I'm
Make
expecting
sure that
kisses
you
and
like,
hugs. Say she
subscribe,
played me to the
share
left, niggas normally
with all your
scrubs. It's so
peoples,
easy to make you smile,
and
but they don't
talk
speak
us.
to you
We
right.
wanna
Don't be
talk
Not
shy.
me, baby,
This
this
is
Hennessy,
conversational,
not
baby.
Yes,
Pedialyte.
please don't
Put
be
you to
shy.
sleep,
Don't be
wake
shy.
up, the sparkle
We love
in your
people.
eye. Cause if you hit it right, you
Make
spend
sure
a
you follow both of
night.
us on the
If you hit
gram.
it right, you spend a night.
They call me Alice, and they has 2 Y's.
Two Y's. And you can also follow me at Battle Midheaven on Instagram as well.
And Madam is spelled with
If
an
you
E.
hit it right, you
With
spend a
the E.
night.
Don't
If you
forget it. It'll
hit
be
it
linked
right, you
below,
spend
guys.
a
We appreciate
night.
you. And we'll see you next time on Grit and Grace.
Bye.